I'm going to try to give a kind of overview of generally what the book is about. So I'll start with the introduction that gives you an outline of what the basic story is. The collection of material for this book is as much a work in progress as my own life. The material spans the period from my early years in Jamaica through the present. This is my story. It is not meant to be a scholarly treatise of history in any academic or formal sense. My individual personal experience is the heart of what I write. The work is arranged in easily discernible and chronologically significant passages of my life. Jamaica, Canada, Kenya, East Africa, America, Zimbabwe, Southern Africa, and America reprise. As with my life, these passages ebb and flow into one another with the same ease with which the average Jamaican, depending on circumstances, reggaes from native patois into the proverbial Queen's English. This facility, it seems, extends itself metaphorically into the ease with which most Jamaicans effortlessly accommodate and adjust their lives and relationships to the demands and peculiarities of any country they happen to adopt as home. My life has been touched in many profound ways by my immediate and extended family, as well as by many outside of this intimate group. Friends, schoolmates, teachers, neighbors, work associates, and business colleagues. It has been shaped in great measure by more than the circumstances of my birth. My earliest school years and my years at Teachers College in Jamaica, my years at university in America, and exposure to professional training in Italy are significant stations in my life. This is no less true of my professional life. I worked for nearly 30 years with an American Fortune 500 multinational company in the Caribbean and on 2 continents, and traveled extensively internationally on business as well as for pleasure. While I fully recognize the deep, shallow, tangential, or pervasive nature of all this, I nevertheless take full credit and responsibility for the person I am. I make no claim that my opinions or views are unique. I can reasonably claim, I believe, that as an American by choice, my background, overall life experience, and exposure do allow me a certain perspective that, while not unique, is certainly different enough to provide some readers with insights and observations to which they may not be exposed otherwise. My intention is not to attempt to convert or change anyone, or even alter their points of view on the things that matter most to me. If this were to happen, however, it would be intensely gratifying. Instead, my overall objective is simply to share my view of the world and America, as an American by choice, with a not-so-common background, at the same time recognizing the marvelous uniqueness of the amazing country we call America. My granddaughters need to understand this. Their generation needs to understand this. They also must understand the formative challenges America faces, as well as those they themselves will face. They should know that their personal challenges will not be unrelated to the challenges facing America. I also wish to share with them my appreciation of and unabashed wonderment at America's extraordinary Constitution, public institutions, and relatively diverse culture, and the extent to which these have impacted my own life and my impressions of America. It is of far greater importance to me that my perspective, points of view, and observations are understood than that they be accepted. A quotation from Aristotle helps to frame my expectation. It is a mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. I can only hope to influence my granddaughters. I cannot hope, nor do I wish, to make them see America and the world exactly as I do. Hopefully, in some small way, I may make a personal contribution to the improvement of the level and quality of interpersonal relationships and discourse, as well as diminish the rate of acceleration of the irrationality and coarseness of behavior among the disparate but equally valuable subgroups in our culture. After all, e pluribus unum cannot be seen as empty words. The construct must instead be seen as a profound expression of hope, intent, and direction. So that gives you an idea of the tenor of what I write. Please stop me at any point if you feel like asking questions or making comments. I'm going to start now with a section of the book that deals with my childhood in Jamaica. And the title of this chapter is Country Boy. I was born in the year 1941 to relatively poor parents in the hills of rural Jamaica, in a tiny house on a gravel road named Wildman Street in the bucolic little town of Christiana, in the parish of Manchester, in the county of Middlesex. I believe that Wildman Street remains unpaved even today, nearly 70 years later. But for the inclusion of Jamaica in the foregoing, anyone could be forgiven for assuming I was born in England. This nominal proximity should not be ignored or seen as trifling. The fact is the British colonial masters were not lacking in imagination, but were constantly overcome by their desire to feel and be at home, thousands of miles and several weeks away from their own cold, bleak and dreary island. And so at home in Jamaica, they were attracted to locations on the island that were as reminiscent of home as is possible in the tropics. Christiana, where I was born, is one such place. Its elevation was high enough that it was never too hot or too cold, in summer or in winter. The names of places should not be the only names of interest to the sensitive observer. The names of Jamaicans should be of just as great interest. The names of the people among whom I grew up in my little town reveal not even the remotest of connection, the most overwhelmingly visible aspect of my origins, my Africanness. These names include Foreman, my mother's maiden name, Newman, Robertson, Gale, Williams, Allen, Peart, Mullings, Rogers, Miller, Binns, Chin, Chang, Lowe, Nam, Samfo. Not a single sign of a name whose origin is Yoruba, Igbo, Hana, Faluni, Gwyn, Mina, Uwe, or Mandingo. In a perverse way, it amply demonstrates the power of branding. This term signifies the extent to which the English and other colonizers overwhelmed and transformed the native characteristics of those they enslaved. This is so powerful yet understated a capability that even where physical features, latent culture, and language were in direct conflict with slave master given names, these names had significantly superior force, longevity, and relevance in the captive societies. From the perspective of someone my age, early Jamaica seems a relatively simple, straightforward place. We all knew our places in the social hierarchy, children as well as adults. Children should be seen but not heard. Adults in positions of authority, or who were thought to be for whatever reason, were automatically deserving of respect and unquestionable deference. Children trusted all adults, and the word of an adult was indisputable. An adult's word was also his bond. Crime was just about non-existent, except for what I would later come to know as private larceny, a concept in English law that allows conviction for stealing a farmer's produce from his field. I recall a neighbor of ours who was the very first person in the town to own a brand new Bedford truck, and only Jamaicans would recognize the term Bedford truck. This made him an instant celebrity and confirmed him as a man of much substance. He was not a very kind or friendly person. He was the first person I knew to acquire a radio. The radio was magical. How could a voice come from this wooden box on a table? It would be many years before I would come to understand how this was in fact possible. I remember how a number of us would steal away from home at dusk to huddle under the window closest to the radio to listen to the BBC broadcast world news. But don't get the wrong impression. It was not the news that attracted us. It was the sheer incredibility of the fact that the radio functioned as it was in fact intended.
We have a question.